Hi everyone, Darpro here. Today we're doing something a little bit different. Most of you guys probably know me as SA2B speedrunner and questionable science practitioner, but this is a bit of a blast from the past. So a long time ago, well, 2015, some of you might not even be born back then, I ran a game called Sonic Triple Trouble, which is a great little game. Um, it's not the greatest speed game in the world, but it's still a lot of fun, especially casually. If you've never played a Sonic game before, this is maybe not a bad one to try. Something that was the case is that many years ago, I ended up getting records, tied records mostly, in pretty much all the Tails levels. But there was one that it escaped me, and that was Tidal Plant 2. And that's because Burton has a 102 in it, which, so far as I know, nobody's been able to replicate until lately, anyway. So, in late 2015, I was able to replicate a 103, which I was very proud of, but it's not a 102. So I sat on it for a while and I worked on it. And I sort of put a half-hearted bounty out there that said if anybody found strategies get a 102, I would come back to the game and I would get it. And that has happened. Worcester has already got a 102. In fact, he got it a while ago, but I didn't know. So, first off, congratulations to him for finding the tech that cracked the nut. And we still don't have a lot of information on Burton's 102. So far as we know, there's no public video of it, and it's hard to get an explanation of how it was done. But it's on the Sonic Center, and so that's the mark. And after quite a while of attempts here, some of it self-inflicted, I've been able to get my own 102, and you may have seen that already on my YouTube channel. And what I want to do today is to go through the whole run and explain what is going on. Because nobody should have to wait 7 years to get a 102. And I would like it if more people understood how this was gotten. So we're just going to talk through this 102 run, and I'm going to point out things that matter and things that don't matter, and hopefully somebody will learn something along the way. So let's get into it. The first things I want you to notice here is I have my controls on the upper left. I'm doing this the old-fashioned way. I'm just doing a display capture of the recording. So I can use my pointer and I can just talk through it. So controls up here, you can see them, they are correct. I am not using a 360 controller proper. I'm actually using a Razer Sabertooth. And the reason I'm doing that is because it has a 4-point D-pad instead of the rolling one like this. So it's just got 4 independent buttons and it just makes my life so much easier. The buttons in it are mechanical, but they are somehow worse than a 360 controller, so it has its ups and its downs. This is also my second one. The first one got destroyed after 7 years of usage. The D-pad membrane literally died. But thankfully there's not much in the way of buttons to be used here. D-pad and there's 2 buttons you can use. We're only going to be using one of them in this speed run. Other things I want to show off is that I'm using Fusion Emulator. This is an approved one for Sonic Triple Trouble. It is notoriously difficult to capture Game Gear, and even if I could, mine downstairs seems to have a capacitor problem. I'll get around to fixing it one day. But in any case, this is the emulator of choice here. I have the frame rate counter here. This will become important someday probably. And I notice that I am using save states here. There's always been some kerfuffle over exactly how save states should be ethically used. But with how many resets this stupid game takes, I have personally gone with the I save state after the introduction to the level, because everyone's going to know what level it is. It's in the title. And we all have better things to do than sit through, several seconds of intro after every attempt when this game kills your run literally on the first button press. And some people are okay with that, some people are not. If you do not like that, you are more than welcome to save state whenever you want when you do your 102. And I will try to make it as easy as possible for you so you don't have to suffer as long as I did. So, very first thing that's going to happen on this level is that we are going to fall into a pool of water. And I want you to notice something. I'm already going to be holding the A button. So we're going to scroll forward here. Already holding the A button and holding to the right. So we are going to hit the water. And for many years I thought you had to time the A press so that when you got control you were rolling first frame. No, you can just hold it. People, use inputs in your speedruns. Have an input display. It makes people's lives so much easier. So what we're going to want to do here is roll to the right, and that is just going to let us continue to the bottom as quickly as possible. This level is full of ups and downs, so the most critical thing is going to be retaining falling speed, and retaining upward momentum. So a lot of the controls are just going to come down to how do we navigate through things without breaking our vertical momentum. So pretty simple. So again, roll. So something I want to point out here that's going to become very important. Notice that I just let go of the controls. Then water physics in this game are a little bit funky, but they actually give you more tools than you normally have in a normal level. So a lot of people are tempted to hold backwards to decelerate for this section. Don't do that. In the water, nothing stops you quicker than just letting go of the controls. If you hold backwards, the character skids for quite a long ways, and it will change their facing angle, which can be useful. But if you just want to stop, let go. It's like 2 to 3 times faster deceleration. It's amazing. So what I'm going to do is, all I do is I get off the ledge. You want to be holding to the right all the way while you're on the ledge. You want to get off this ledge as soon as possible. And as soon as I'm off it, I just let go. And that will enable me to land vertically on these first set of large background squares, which is where I want to be. So what I'm going to do is we're going to roll through the gap to the right. So what I'm going to listen for is, as soon as I hear the first ring, I'm going to start holding right. And as soon as I hear the fifth ring, I'm going to hit the A button to roll. And this should get me through the gap every single time. Note that this is dependent on your controller input lag. So your setup may have different marks than mine. This is what I use. I recommend them. But be prepared to change your input timing as necessary for your setup, your eyeballs, your fingers. You get the picture. So this is going to be otherwise pretty simple. This is the first difficult part of the level, and many runs die here. So I have seen people hit this monitor with the speed shoes. I have not found it to make any difference, so don't get uptight over it. I typically just miss it for the heck of it, but if I hit it, I hit it. I didn't hit it in this run, so we're going to hit the spring, and make sure you are letting go of the D-pad here, again, so the deceleration happens. Otherwise, you will go to the right, you will hit the spikes, and you will get to reset your run. That's no fun. And the spring is going to bounce us up, and we're going to time the roll to get in the sub right here. So I hit the input right as I'm crossing this seam here. It seems to work. This one was actually a little bit early. I got away with it, lucky me. You want to hit the roll around here so that Tails is falling, because he only seems to get in the sub when he's falling. So you want to hit the top of your jump as soon as you can, but not so soon that you don't make it to the sub. So that tends to work for me. So we're going to just get up here, hold right, boom, we're in the sub. Now, if you heard that, I am charging a spin dash. This is something that some people do and some people do not. As best I can tell, this is faster. You do not have to fully charge a spin dash, or dash, whatever you want to call it. It's a sub. You don't get to spin in it. But you don't have to charge it all the way. Charging it all the way is relatively safe, but not the fastest. So I charge it half to 75% of the way, and that does the job. It's worth about a tenth as best as I can estimate. It's not a ton, but when you're going for a time like this, it's free. And plus, pushing buttons is more fun than not pushing buttons. Otherwise, what are you doing here? So off we go. And now we're just going down. So something to note here is that you get a good reflection of your time watching the timer, what it's going to be the moment you cross behind this. So the reason that I'm pretty confident that doing that spin dash saves time is that if you do not do it, if you just hold to the right and down, you will have a 14 flick right as you cross this, whereas if you do the spin dash, you will basically never see a 14. So it's a tiny amount, but tiny is more than nothing. So there you can see, clearly not a 14. So when we get here, what's very important is that you do not let go of the down button. Down is important because it allows us to do this dash through these blocks earlier. So what you're going to notice is that Tails is going to stop long before he's parallel with these. You can get away with a shockingly early dash to get through these. Like you can be like halfway through this block here, and it will still let you go down because I'm guessing it calculates your next frame worth of down when it calculates your collision. So you can basically clip this corner quite a long ways, and it's worth time. Like it's worth tenths to do this as soon as you can. I don't remember if this one is that early or not, but it's nonetheless what I'm going for. So what you don't want to do is try to aim so you're perfectly in line. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. And if you're late, you don't have a chance. But so in this case, early is better. You do not actually need to fully charge a spin dash for this, but you should. It is faster to do so. So you want to make sure that you're letting go of it at the opportune time when it's fully charged. You can get away with sooner, but it doesn't really pay dividends. So we're going to roll through here. Yep, it was a little bit early. You can see that. Okay, so critically, what I did is I let go of the control stick here so that I got no momentum. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a dash here. Not everyone does this. You should do it. It is faster, but it only works if you know how the deceleration works. That was like one of the critical things that bumped me from a 105 to a 103 is this dash. So basically just a little bit before the spikes, I let go of the D-pad so that my vertical momentum is suddenly stopped, because we obviously want to go from going down to going up as soon as possible so that we can proceed with the level. That, again, that up-down flow of the level and keeping your vertical speed and switching it as quickly as possible when you get to those points is critical. And this is one of the points where you have to do that. So what I want to do is I want to get down here as quickly as possible, stop as quickly as possible, and then get myself to a position where I can start coming back up as quickly as possible to optimize the turnaround. So that's what we're doing here. So getting down here, never letting go of the D-pad until I'm ready to stop, and about the spikes, I let go. And if you get it perfectly, you can just barely like skim these spikes, and as soon as you clear this with the dash, you can go back up. That's not what I did here. I'm a little bit further down. It actually doesn't matter. This ends up being slightly more optimal than skimming the spikes perfectly, because you can actually start gaining upward momentum just barely and clipping the corner of these spikes. You can get away with it. And that is like a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half faster than perfectly skimming it, but perfectly skimming it is never bad. This is harder to get right and riskier. So mostly it comes down to luck. In this case, I was probably lucky. Who knows after a billion attempts. But yeah, that's what's going on. As soon as you get down here, let go of the control stick, charge the spin dash 50 to 75% again. You don't need a full one. A full one isn't awful, but 75% is about good. And then as soon as I get across here, I'm going to start hitting up again. Slightly before in this case, because again, we have some room between ourselves and the spikes. And the whole key here is you want to be going back up as quickly as you possibly can. Again, not a fully charged one. So, something I want to note here is that I'm over at a spot where I can still see the timer when I'm going up because of this block. If you're farther to the left, you can't see it. If you're farther to the right, you can't see the block. But if you can see this block is a very good indicator of how fast you are going. So let's scroll up a bit. There's the 4. So each one of these blocks gives you a very accurate idea of how quickly you have finished the first sector of the level. So this one turned over right about here to a 4. So this is pretty good. This is like 2.5 blocks up. That's pretty friggin' good. It is possible to actually have a 23 all the way up past this block visibility. Like, it's a big deal if you can get that. So you could use these to measure how good your time is. If a 2 block is pretty good, 3 block is excellent. Anything lower than 2 block is probably not going to be your best bet for a 102. That said, like a 2 block takes a very good run. Don't get me wrong. If you can do that, you're doing good. Less than that, like getting less than that is not a shame, but it's going to mean that it's going to be so much more difficult to get a 102. And just, be prepared for that. Take more risks if you need to. But yeah, if you can get a 2.5 block, you're doing good. If you get a full 3 block, that's good. But other than that, there's nothing fancy going on here. We're just holding up, and then we're going to hold left in a second. I'm going to go all the way to the left because there's a bomb on this column. So it's more risk and not faster. Just go all the way to the left. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to scroll this a bit further. Okay. This spin dash is very, very important because it pays dividends. The sooner you can do it, the better. So my marker is as soon as Tails is in line with this spike, the bottom of the sub is in line with this spike, that's when I go. You can get away with a little bit earlier, you can get away with a little bit later, but the key here is we're actually setting ourselves up for something better and, in my opinion, far, far swaggier. But it starts here. That's why it's critical. This is a fully charged spin dash, no monkey business. And the reason that I want it at that particular position is it's going to allow me to hit the spot I want without letting go of the upward D-pad. If you do it too late, you can still get away with this. You just have to let go of the up button, which you do not want to do, because that means you're going up less. And again, this stage comes down to how quickly can you go down, up, down, up, down, up. But if you don't hit this, it's even worse. So watch out for that. And if you are too low, there's basically nothing you can do except short charge a spin dash, but then you're boned anyway because you will clip this corner. In fact, the timing here is such that we actually want to sort of lag through this corner. There will be times when you hit it perfectly and you just get stuck on this corner, which, sorry, tough luck for you. That's this game in a nutshell. But what I want to do with this particular spin dash is set up so I can just hold right and up, and at the last second, I'm going to flip tails to the left. I'm not even going to let go of the D-pad altogether. I'm just going to point him straight left. And this will cause him to skid into a block that is coming up. It's going to snatch that block, get stuck on it, and it'll just work with our movement perfectly. This is not something I've seen anyone else do. And that's kind of a shame because it is swaggy as hell. But here we go. So you can see, I think I may have let go of the up button there for a moment because I got scared. You do not have to if that's done perfectly. So now I am jammed on this block. So if I let it run a bit more, you can see I'm stuck on this block. And that means I don't have to worry about coming over here. I don't have to worry about decelerating. So something I will say is other runners, Worcester in particular, does not do this snag. He will just jet all the way over to the right, let go of the controls, and just let his sideways velocity come down. If you are not careful, you will dash over to the right here, and inexperienced players will hold to the left, and they will just remain stuck on this wall because their horizontal speed is still to the right, and it decelerates so slowly, you will run into the spikes before you unstick from this wall if you try holding left. The only way to get away from this is to hold nothing as far as sideways on the D-pad, and then your acceleration comes down. You can get away from the wall. Worcester does this. It does work. But I find that if you do a spin dash early enough in the right spot, getting the snag is basically 100%. It's awesome. It makes the movement easier. This is my method of choice. I will tell people about one thing that can be done here, though. It's the reason that this works is because we turn around. So by holding left, Tails is still skidding to the right, but his nose sticks on this block. It works. If you do not do this, it is possible, while pointing to the right, to skip off of this block here. And so you can displace Tails to the right, like almost a full block, and get out of this alcove sooner. I have done this. It does work. It is not as consistent as this, but it is very fast. So if you get that little skip off it and play it correctly, it is fast, as fast as this. It may be like a tenth faster. I have not gotten it enough times to be able to verify that it is faster, but it is at least as fast as this. But again, this works 100% of the time, and it looks awesome. So I'm going to do this. From here, all we need to do is go up. And again, we're going to diverge from Worcester here in a way that's pretty significant. So as soon as I get in line with this alcove right here, or a tiny bit above, I'm going to spin dash to the left. So what we're going to do is we are going to spin dash up and left. And then as soon as we get in line with this, we're going to let go of the upward direction and then come down onto the spikes. And I'm going to try to very perfectly place this on the spikes so that Tails is carried to the left but does not snag on the overhead block. This is very difficult to hit. It is blind, but it is fast. So every other runner does this a little bit differently. Some runners will just come all the way to the left here, and they will bonk on the spikes at the top here. That is a tried and tested strategy that will get you some very good times, but not this good at times. Worcester comes up all the way to the left, and just gently bonks onto the spikes to get the leftward um, projection. This is also pretty fast, but this, as far as I know, is like 2 to maybe 4 tenths faster. So it is very, very, very significant to hit that. It is the most technically difficult part of the whole run, but it's not that unreliable when you have practice. And again, it's swaggy as hell. So what you'll notice is that I am slightly above this block here. This makes this a little bit easier. It gives you a little bit more time to get the inputs in and get them correct and see where you're going. You will not have much time because you're going to be doing a full speed dash here, so it's not going to be on screen for very long, but it's enough time. And that's what you're going to want. So this gives me a little bit of extra headroom for my dash. It is a fully charged dash, so we're going to go up till we're in line with this. And then at the very last moment, we're going to start moving tails down. You can get away with this lower. It is faster because you started sooner. It is also harder. So make your decision on how much risk you're willing to accept. But yeah, this is my recommended method because it buys you so much time. It's so fast and gives you so much headroom for the later parts of the level. So yeah, here we go. It's going to come over to the right, stop, down. This is the critical part. So these spikes will do different things depending on exactly where you hit them. Classically, tails will be pointing to the right because the game's tendency is to project tails backwards, which would be this way, which is where we want to go, but he will then be facing the wrong way. And turning him around costs time. So if you wanted to, you could do this much more easily by pointing him backwards. It's almost definitely going to get you where you want to go, but it will cost you like tenths to half a second, depending on how quick your fingers are. So that would be pretty reliable if you want to get a 103. But for a 102, doing this the fastest possible way just buys you so much headroom, and that's what I recommend. Problem: doing this the forward way is very precise. Very precise. So what you need to do is hit these spikes in exactly the spot where tails will be projected over this corner. Because if he hits this corner, he will get reflected back this way. And if he's too far to the right, he will bounce up and clip on this corner here. So you need to be exactly the right, left-right position to get underneath this, but over this. It is not easy. At full speed, it is wild. But when you get it, oh, that's a good feeling. But the good news is that once you get that part, a lot of this is just cruising. So Tails is going to be coming out of the sub, pointing the correct direction to do a spin dash. You can just hold down and be ready on the A button to go. Life is easy once you hit that. So boom, we're underneath here, spin dash. At this block here, I'm going to very quickly and sharply tap the A button. And you want as short a tap as possible because we do not want Tails to get a lot of height out of this jump. We just need to get over this corner. In fact, we're almost kind of going to lag the corner a bit, but it works very reliably. But the timing is very important, and getting a very short, sharp tap in is important. If you hold it for too many frames, you'll just go over the pipe and your run's dead. Don't do that. It's painful to finally get this trick and then mess this part up. So just pop, quick hit on the A button, and you're off to the races. Boop, up. So at this point, this is another good check to see how you're doing. As far as time, you have a little bit of a moment here to yourself to get ready for the next section. So I aim to be in this pipe at exactly the moment it ticks over from 37 to 38. I've had faster runs. I've gotten away with slower runs, but that's about what I want to get. And that's about what this was. So this pipe, you don't have to do anything except hold to the right, and that'll get you ready for the next section. So we're just going to pop up, hold right, do nothing, and we're rolling in the pipe. Okay, next section. The next section is where it makes or breaks it. In fact, the last sector is not as technically difficult as getting that big dash onto the spikes, but it is a much longer technical section with more things to go wrong. Individually, none of them are harder, but all together, they are one long, grueling section, and a lot of things are sort of out of your control. So that's something you sort of have to get used to. You get to this point, you sort of have to be um, jaded as to the value of how good it is or how bad it is. If you're attached to a run by this point, you are going to be in for a rough time because the game will heartlessly kill your runs over and over and over again. Okay, so this next part is going to start with something that's very technical, so I'll run through it kind of slowly. We're going to come out of the pipe holding right, and that'll get us to the right side of this. This is good setup and saves you a bit of distance. As soon as I hit the ground, spin dash, and be prepared to go here. So watch the controls very carefully. So I'm not holding any direction, and I'm very quickly and sharply tapping the A button to get this roll in. You don't need to hold a direction to get this. You don't want to hold a direction. If you hold right, you're not going to get what you want out of this. All you need to do is just pop the spin dash and let go, keep holding down. And then as soon as you roll off this ledge, start popping the A button to get this roll. If you quickly smack the A button in here with doubles or triplets, you can get 2, maybe 3 chances to get this roll, and the lag is so heavy that will save runs. If you can get 2 inputs in instead of 1, yeah. You can also just hold the A button here. It works, but I found that popping it a couple times is both helpful and therapeutic. So the key here is that we're going to continue holding down, and that is going to allow us to pop this ring box without getting height. And then the real trick happens. So, boom, ring box. So notice we have come out of the roll. So this allows us to do another roll. And here is where the block skip happens. So this is the major factor that led me from 103 to 102, and I think the same is true of Worcester. I do not know who originally found it. I suspect it is Worcester. If it is not, please correct me and I will put a note into the video somehow. But that is my understanding. So what we are going to do is glitch these blocks so that Tails does not get any height off them and retains the roll, which, that's a good sentence right there. You love having rolls, and you love not losing height here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to time the roll right as I touch this block, and then I'm going to do the exact same for the one below it. This is very difficult, and I strongly suspect it is lag dependent also, because when I tested it in slow motion, I still could not get reliable effects hitting on the same frame. So I suspect this is lag. The best thing you can do is do your best and pray. Also, you'll note, and unlike hitting the A button multiple times, I'm just going to hold it. It seems that if it eats an input on the first frame while you are doing this, it will give you a chance at the second one, and this can save a run. So again, I'm going to smack the A button and hold it when I'm about to touch this first block, and you will see what happens. So, pop. So notice, didn't get a jump off of it, didn't pop me back up, and we still have a roll. As far as the game cares, we have still not rolled, which is fantastic. Again, we're going to repeat this. The second one is, in my opinion, harder but easier than the first, if that makes any sort of sense. It is harder to get because it depends on how the first one goes, but you can get it easier by just having a rhythm in your mind. Now, I highly recommend doing a save state here and practicing these, because you will get a rhythm for the first one and then the second one to where you can just get it every time. Where if you get the first one, you can get the second one. It's difficult, but it works. And to have it be a reflex takes away from the mental load that you will be experiencing. Because when you get to this point and you get that first one and you're on the run, your brain is going to go wild. So being able to just autopilot the second one is a lifesaver. So again, you're going to see the exact same thing here. This is going to pop. We're not going to get height out of it, and we're just going to be moving on with the level. So pop. So very critical here. This roll is going to take us down and to the left. There's a down slope here to the left. I do not want to hit that slope if I can avoid it, but there's a lot of things going on. So when I do this roll, I'm going to get as much leftward momentum as I can. And as soon as the roll is about to end, I pop right on the D-pad to fix Tails' facing direction. If this is done really well, you will not clip the downslope that is below us. If you hit the downslope, it's not the end of the world, but it can be done perfectly, and if you can, so much the better. Now that said, if you do barely clip the corner, it can halt your momentum and be even faster. So there's a lot of ways this can go. It helps to be prepared for all of them. The optimal one is if you can get not hitting the lip at all, but still get back to the right, good. But it's hard. If you clip the ledge, which I believe is what I do, it's still really, really, really good. So again, I'm going to, as soon as I cross this block here, this is when I hit the A button and immediately start holding left. And that will hopefully get me around this corner. And as soon as I think that spin's about to end, I hit to the right, and that will fix my facing. There we go. Okay, so you can see I did manage to actually not hit this, and I believe this is going to carry me over to the left. So this is not as perfect as it could go, but it's good enough. So as soon as I hit the ground, I'm going to spin dash to the right, and I'm going to have to collide with the wall. As soon as we hit the wall, things are going to get wonky. So spin dash, wall, and now here what I'm going to do is, again, we have a downslope to the left, but the floor is covered with buttons that result in bubbles. Now, I only recently realized this, but those bubbles can work in two ways. So the switches halt your downward falling velocity, and they're going to be a little bit glitchy. So let's watch this and just pay attention to what the button does. Now, again, I want to time this roll so that I barely clip this corner and don't hit the downslope as much as I can. You cannot avoid it 100%, but I want to get as much breathing space as possible because of these buttons. So what I do here is I just hit the wall solidly and then I hit the A button. I don't have a better timing for it than that, but it worked for me. Again, this one is slightly lag dependent and this corner can be crotchety. Give it your best shot and hope. So again, okay. So this has already happened. You can notice that I cannot totally miss this downslope, but I can keep almost all my momentum. The reason is I'm not hitting these blocks, the ground, I'm hitting the buttons. And the most critical part of these buttons is that if you are too low coming out of that roll, this button will activate twice, and you will get two bubbles out of that one out of this one, and that will almost invariably kill your run for two reasons. Number one, it will halt almost all of your downward momentum, and you will fall much slower, which is a killer. Number two, the three bubbles are so laggy, this roll that is coming up will almost always get eaten. It is a huge pain. So dodging this button to only hit each one once and get two bubbles is critical. Absolutely critical, and that starts with the timing of that roll when you hit that wall. It is painful to have a good run up to this point and get a triple bubble, but it's going to happen. It will happen. It happened to me. It will probably happen to you. If it doesn't happen to you, then you are a lucky person, and I am grateful for your existence. Okay, so notice that I'm on this button, but I've let go of the control stick. I want to stop as quickly as possible, because I'm going to stop my leftward momentum and roll back to the right to get around the ring box and the jutting outcropping that is to the right here. It is possible to do this next roll without ever letting go of left while you are on the ground, and as far as I can tell, this is a hair faster, but it makes the controllability so much worse, and I knew it wasn't necessary for a 102, that I just was safe here, and I just let go of it early to make sure the controllability was there and this was going to go smooth. The good news is once you get to this point, you have the option of just making the rest of the level a done deal, and that's what I did. So I'm going to get off the ledge and wait until my momentum is at a dead standstill sideways, and then I'm going to roll to the right, and as soon as the roll ends, I'm going to face tails to the left. So it's the inverse of what we did prior. Again, roll left. And that will sneak me along these edges. You do not want to get stuck on this ledge. You do not want to come so far to the right that you're over here. You want to minimize the amount of movement. So, again, you can see how if you have very little momentum coming off that switch, this is a very narrow S shape. If you have a lot of momentum, you will have to do a much more violent spin to come back. And clipping this angle is so much harder. If you land on this, it's over. It can also clip and just slow your downward momentum, which is bad, but usually survivable, but still not good. Or you can end up not getting the facing right. If you're coming down here and you're facing the wrong direction, it's a swift kick in the pants. So you want to come over here, land on this facing the right direction, and just immediately blitz that spin dash. So just boom, spin dash. Coming out of this, make sure you point tails to the left. Aside from that, you don't need to do anything here. Again, spin dash left. I'm going to roll here just to face tails to the right. You don't need to do anything fancy here, just get him facing to the right. And as soon as you hit the ground, get that spin dash. First block, get off the ground. If you hit the second one, the lag only increases and the likelihood of that jump getting eaten goes higher. So here I will usually mash. Just you can still survive if there is if there's an input eat on the first one and you jump here, you will get away with it. But if you jump properly on this one, very rarely will it eat your input and you are relatively safe. So again, get up here, doink the side of the screen. I'm just going to wait a moment and I will let the screen scroll over just enough that my spin dash takes me straight to the end pole. And I guarantee you I am staring intently at this number right here with a force X-ray vision. And there it is, it's a 102. And I got a nice Chaos Emerald pole for my trouble. I love that one. I don't know why, but I love it. So that's a 102. And a pretty healthy one at that. Worcester's barely got the 102. He's got more headroom for time in his if he wanted it to. But he got it, and that was good enough. I strongly suspect Worcester's end section is slightly better than mine, but I'm considerably faster through the first and middle sectors. So the question obviously is, Dark Pro, what do you think about a 101? And the answer is, I have tested this to within an inch of my life with segmented runs. If it is possible by like a frame. So I did the segmented run with the best sectors I could muster, and I got a 102.2. So very, very healthy 102. Very comfortable. But it's not a 101. It is possible that with an absolute god tier ending that could be improved, but I don't see any substantial improvement over my first or second sectors that I was able to get, because it was like a 3 1/4 block first sector, which was ludicrous, and an absolutely perfect middle sector. So like you could see it was like a full second faster than anything I had done. But that's still not enough to get a 101. A full second faster than anything I had done still only nets me a 102. So if there's more time in the end sector, and there very well may be, a 101 would be possible, but it's as it stands, it's still like a tens of thousands of run attempts to get it. To tie together like an absolutely perfect first sector, absolutely perfect second sector, absolutely perfect third sector, that is a life I don't need. But it's only a couple tenths off. So if somebody finds some like a block clip or something else, even just a better located spin dash, it goes from like not possible / maybe possible to like doable. If we get to a point where like a 101.7 or 101.8 is possible with the tech, that's probably when somebody can start thinking about doing it. But I don't have the tech right now. Other people may have more tech. It's close, but it's not there yet. And I have not decided if somebody can find the tech whether I would ever do a 101. Maybe. But yeah, that is 102. If somebody's out there and could find a second by using the torpedo somehow for something useful in this game, that would be awesome. But yeah, for now, we're at 102. So I hope you fine prospective STT runners out there found this educational. I think this is a really interesting level. I think it's got some of the most advanced tech of any level ever done in this game. And I had a blast over the years trying to figure it out. I thought it was astonishing that we were able to go from a 108 time that I thought was like ridiculous to now a 102. That's 6 seconds in a game where finding any sort of time save is like mind-boggling. So Yeah, we will see. Hopefully, some of you runners out there are smarter than I am, and in another year, we are talking about how sick this 101 TP2 is. But that's a problem for another time. For now, hope you guys had a nice time listening to me drone on about this level, and yeah, I hope you have a nice night, evening, morning, whatever it happens to be where you are, and keep it fun.